actually also then organize export-import, so we also have some very practical experience on what we are talking today. At the same time, we also work as advisors. In recent years, we did quite some work also supported by GIZ with ASEAN Secretariat, and most of the material, not all of the material, but most of the material has been developed in the context of, has even been approved by the ASEAN Secretariat. So it has a stamp of the Secretariat. And venture between our Zurich-based company and then some partners in Thailand. And we have other affiliates in Indonesia, in Vietnam, and we are currently considered to open also office in Myanmar. Just briefly, my background is in business administration. My main interest is in international management. I'm a professor at a Swiss university. The history of trade liberalization. So we spend a few minutes on that before we then go to the very specifics of that document and the related issues. But maybe it's good also to have an understanding where this all comes from and how it's related to other initiatives which are also there. Well, I think the trade liberalization started after the Second World War, also based on the experience that have been made later with the Marshall Plan and so on, and people understood that trade liberalization is maybe a way forward, which then was reflected in the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, which most of you certainly know. That was the first set of rules that have been applied internationally, and that was not really based on a fixed organization like we would have today with the WTO, and this organization meanwhile represents most of the countries in the world. But then also, and I think this is something which is not so frequently discussed anymore, because now everybody is talking about the AEC and the ASEAN related trade agreements, but then you see that you have many regional trade agreements. EU, you certainly know the NAFTA, then you have Mercosur in Southern America. You have SADC in Africa, you have sometimes competing regional trade agreements, you have bilateral agreements, well, and then from a government perspective and even more from a business perspective, sometimes you say, okay, hold on, there are so many agreements, so which one is valid now in my specific case? And that is why knowledge related to trade is very valuable, and you have to consider many things, and even if there is the AEC and such, then you cannot ignore that there are bilateral agreements, that they are also binding together with some others. So just to remind ourselves that the issue is maybe a little bit more complex than we discussed today, but obviously our focus today is